What's up folks, Moon here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Mythic raiding in the Liberation of Undermine, and specifically I'm going to be talking about the biggest mistake that I made while Mythic raiding so that hopefully you don't make the same mistake and have a lot better time raiding than I did. So to get it out of the way, I don't want to clickbait you or drag you on for too long. The biggest mistake that I personally made was playing a class that I did not find fun. Granted, I found the raid overall to be very fun. I thought it was themed super well. If you played the game with the sound on, I thought the music for the boss fights was just absolutely perfect. And the raid was very fun progressing on normal and heroic difficulties. That being said, Mythic is definitely a step up from normal and heroic, and if you're somebody who's a little bit newer to Mythic raiding, maybe you've only gotten ahead of the curve in the past, when you start Mythic progression in the later on fights, you're going to be talking about tens, if not hundreds of wipes on a single boss in progression. Now, your patience is going to be drawn very thin from a variety of factors. You're going to have several pulls where one or two different people are going to be messing up mechanics, and that's going to rack up the pull count. That's going to rack up the amount of wipes that you have. You're going to have people who are not prepping for strats. You're going to have people who are not preparing for raid outside of raid, who are perhaps underperforming in raid. You're going to have a revolving door of people coming in and out of your team. You may have to reprogress a fight if you have a couple absences and you have to bring in some people from the bench. There are a lot of ways that raid teams can fail or raid teams can experience strain. And this is why it's critical that you are playing a class that you enjoy while you are raiding, because if you are not, it is only going to exponentially increase that strain and that burnout. And I know there's something to be said for meta too, right? Like if you are a Hall of Fame guild, if you are somebody who is so dedicated to World of Warcraft that you are playing at the absolute upper echelon of the game, chances are you love playing the game for the sake of the game and you really don't care what you play so long as you hit your goals. If that's you, absolutely awesome. I'm not talking about you in this video, I'm more so talking about the newer Mythic raiders, or people who are like maybe mid-tier Mythic raiders, or anybody who's even interested in Mythic raiding. So I'll talk a little bit about my own personal experience. I do want to disclose that I am a healer player. However, I think that what I talk about is going to be applicable to any non-healer players as well, because it'll give you a more well-rounded perspective as to what's happening in your raid team around you. So talking about the healer classes, there are currently 7 different specializations of healers that you can play in the game. And you can really split these healers into 2 archetypes, that being a ramping healer versus a non-ramping healer. I made a little chart right here showing you which healers fit into the ramping category, and basically the difference is that a ramping healer has to prepare their healing ahead of time, whereas non-ramping healers are more reactive with their playstyle, have more consistent healing throughput, and their cooldowns more so help them increase that throughput by a little bit. Whereas with a ramping healer, they have a short window of time where they have the absolute most healing in the game, and then they kind of hit like a wet noodle for a little bit. I'd say the exception in the ramping healer category would be Restoration Druid. This is an anecdote from my own experience playing Resto Druid, is that the rejuves for some reason tend to do quite a bit of sustained healing even between ramp windows, and I find that I'm just able to do an absolute ton of throughput and snipe HPS from other healers. But my mistake was that I happened to pick the most difficult ramping healer coming from a non-ramping background, and that being Discipline Priest. My choice as to why I decided to play Disc Priest and raid this tier was largely because I enjoyed playing Discipline Priest in Mythic Plus. In Mythic Plus, Discipline Priest to me felt like the absolute Chad healer, where I was playing Void Weaver at the time. I was blasting a ton of damage, just spamming my Mind Blast and my Void Blast, and I was having an absolute fantastic time. I knew a little bit about Mythic Plus mechanics, just enough to where I could throw out Pain Suppression and Dome and Great Windows, and it was great. And you can have your prop paladin carry you bridal style into the sunset and frolic in the fields as you get an easy 3k or title or whatever score you're going for. That's lovely, that's fantastic. Disc does not play like that in raid at all. Holy shit, was it a rude awakening for me playing Discipline Priest in raid for the first time. I pulled up an automatic Jack guide, shout out to him. Without you, I would have quit Disc a long time ago. And then I found out that Discipline Priest had a really cool quirky ramp of 18 global cooldowns. I had to cast 18 spells before I actually got to do my main healing. And that's just for a 20-man group. When I was doing discipline in heroic progression, there were sometimes nights where we had like 25 people. And the interesting thing is about disc is that you can plan your ramp for the exact same mechanics every single time, but your timings can still change based off of how much haste you have, because that changes how long your global cooldown is, which means your ramp window will shift slightly depending on your haste. And having to make those slight adjustments just to stay viable, I found it to be pretty taxing. Now, I don't want to completely scare you off of playing disc. While it is a healer that I don't recommend at all for beginners to pick up, I think it's absolutely rewarding when you set up this huge ramp of healing and you take a huge damage hit and you're able to just heal it all off. Or if there's some unexpected damage event that happens in your ramp window, you are able to cover it absolutely no problem, easy peasy. However, if you are even 1 or 2 seconds late to your ramp timing, you lose so much healing. There's this dude that I watch named like Chad Disc, and he's able to just shit out HPS like it's nothing. And I have absolutely no idea how he does it, because then I'm over here doing like my water dragon jutsu, trying to get my healing out, and I'm like 2 seconds late, and my Mistweaver swinging his massive dong just eats up all that healing. So then now I look like I'm fresh out of the movie Oliver asking, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" and get a fat gray parse next to my name. Now, granted, healer parses are a meme, but I'm just kind of explaining that sort of snowball effect of if you're even late to one ramp, it is going to affect you for the absolute rest of the fight. It is a very punishing healer, and if you play mage, like fire mage or arcane mage, I'm sure you know how convoluted your class is, and so you can kind of sympathize in that regard, where it's like if you miss something that's very minor, it will punish you very severely. But I found it very frustrating, where I was having to sweat each and every pull, and I was having to make sure that I was really locked in, where there were some people on my raid team who, not going to name any names, but you have a 4-button rotation at the most, and you are consistently dying to avoidable mechanics. All I could think of was, man, I either want to, re-roll super badly or just like not be here right now. It was very much not a fun time. But again, the whole moral of the story here is to make sure that you are playing a class you enjoy, because if you're not playing a class that you enjoy, every other minor annoyance will become that much more annoying and or draining. And the thing is, this made my burnout so much worse to where it got me into the habit of raid logging once I filled my vault. I would log on Tuesday, I would play the game for like 3 hours straight, just do nothing but 10s, fill up my vault, do raid, and log out. And I really just did not care to play the game outside of that. I could talk about Mythic looting in another video, but for the most part, if you're a healer, you're not getting any loot from raid during progression. Like you're just not getting any loot. Is a lot better on the DPS players than it is on you, and you need DPS to kill the boss, which is totally something I get. But it's like, okay, well, I am not becoming any more powerful outside of 1 gear slot a week from my vault. And outside of that, there's really no reason for me to play the game unless I'm logging on for raid. And really at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're having fun playing the game that you are paying $15 a month for. So I did pick up some alts, and I did start playing some other healers in a Mythic Plus environment, and I started playing some DPS too. That's why you see me playing Boomkin in the background here. But ultimately, I had to stop raiding for the tier due to scheduling reasons and IRL conflicts. Long and short is, I am a night shift worker, so my raid time is right before my shift. And it was pretty draining on my IRL schedule because I would have to essentially block off the whole night before I go to work to set up for raid to make sure that I'm back at my house in time for raid. And that was the main reason as to why I stopped raiding. I like most of the people on my raid team. I definitely liked my officer corps. I really like playing with the guild that I'm with. But the main reason that I wanted to make this video was to just share some info that I acquired through raiding with the hopes that people don't make the same mistake I did. So if this content resonated with you, it would mean a lot if you could support the channel via liking or sharing it with your friends. And until next time, this is Moon, talking about Mythic Raid, and signing out.